Hey, welcome back to Brighter Rays. We're looking at a study called It Is Enough. And we're looking at Genesis chapter 45 this week. And today's study is in verses 25 through 28. So hopefully you read that already, and we'll jump in. So we're told that the brothers went up out of Egypt and came to the land of Canaan to their father Jacob. When they meet with their father, they tell him, Joseph is still alive, and he's ruler over all the land of Egypt. Now, Jacob readily accepted the story that Joseph had been killed by a wild animal. But to convince him that Joseph was alive and ruling in Egypt, that would take a little more work. It didn't take much to convince him that Joseph was dead, but to prove that he's alive, well, this is going to take a little more work. Now, when he hears about Joseph, his heart, it says, becomes numb, and he would not accept their story. He didn't believe it. He's like, no, that's not true. And I guess many factors could have driven Jacob to this numbness. Think about it. He'd been so convinced, right? He's so convinced that Joseph was dead for all these decades. And he mourned greatly. I mean, he mourned horribly for a long time. It's hard to overcome grief that's so deep, that's so deeply rooted in your soul so quickly. And that's hard to overcome. Just hearing Joseph's name may have been enough to numb his heart. Like, why are you bringing up Joseph again? He's gone, and it just shows how much he cared for that boy when he lost him. Also, we've seen the lack of trust that Jacob has in his son. So I think just the difficulty of overcoming that grief, and then also the fact that he doesn't really trust his sons. They've let him down before. And they treated him badly before. So he felt that they had treated him badly, and they have. And so trust is easily lost, and it's long in being won. So if you're going to win back trust, it takes a long time. You can lose trust in a split second. But to win that back, it takes a long time. And so they need to do that. It's not going to. They're not going to be able to convince them with just say, "Hey, man, guess what? Joseph's alive." That's not going to work. So, seeing that their father was not quick to believe them, the brothers go about trying to convince him that what they're saying is true. You can imagine the scene here. They tell Jacob all that Joseph had told them, which probably included all the events of how Joseph ended up as ruler in Egypt as well. So they relate this whole story to him. Here's how we sold him, and they might have told him everything at that point. Then they went out and said, "Hey, come out of your tent. Look at the wagons we have." So they come out. Here's all the wagons that we're traveling in. Here's all the donkeys that had all the goods on it from Egypt. Obviously, we didn't buy these there. We didn't have this much money. And Jacob must have already noticed the fact that both Simeon and Benjamin had returned as well, and that they all were wearing new clothes from Egypt. Yeah, it took him to see the wagons. That's what finally revived his spirit. When he saw the wagons, it says, he's like, okay, I believe you now. So Jacob's heart was fully convinced now that what they're saying is true. And Jacob says, it is enough. It is enough. Joseph, my son, is still alive, and I will go see him before I die. So after seeing all that, hearing the story, Jacob's like, I believe you. It's enough. I will go down to him, and I will see him before I die. I will go. And crazy. I can imagine the brothers are like, no, he's alive. We saw him with our own eyes. It's him. And Jacob's like, nah, that's not him. So it takes a lot to overcome that. So there's a lesson in there too. Like, trust is quickly lost. So we need to work on being trustworthy. And we need to be careful not to be accusatory too, because oftentimes that's what destroys trust. It's hard to gain that back. Or if you just walk away from somebody, and then then you blame them for why you never responded. Like, That person was there all along and you're the one that left. So why is it their fault? But that's what people do. So, we just got to keep that in mind. Like, trust is a hard thing to win back. So we need to work hard not to lose it. But when we do, we need to be forgiving. And we need to be trustworthy people. So think about that this week. As you deal with other people, just be careful, Don't unnecessarily destroy people's trust in you. And if you don't trust them, why don't you trust these people? What have they done to you? Are you still keeping record of wrong? Maybe they didn't even wrong you. Maybe you made something up yourself, and that's why you don't trust them. So we examine our hearts, like we're told in Scripture, to make sure we're not the ones that are causing the distrust. So come back next time, and we'll look at the conclusion of our study for this week.